When the sun falls and the last doorbolt slides shut, the world does not sleep. It stirs. In forgotten corners of our planet, legends speak of night demons that slip through shadows, devouring the life of anyone they touch, man or woman, child or elder. From tropical villages to icy northern forests, these beings wear many faces but share one hunger: human souls. Tonight, we'll lift the veil on 5 of the most terrifying spirits ever imagined, demons of the night that may still be lurking beyond the edge of firelight. Dare you listen until the end.
By day, they are your neighbors. By night, they sprout wings, long tongues, and hollow appetites. From the lush islands of the Philippines comes one of the most chilling legends of all, the Aswang. To the casual eye, it may be a smiling face in the marketplace, a kind woman tending to her garden, or a neighbor passing by with a friendly nod. But when the sun dips and shadows lengthen, the disguise melts away. Wings stretch wide, tongues slither long and thin, and hunger awakens, a hunger for the flesh and blood of the living. The Aswang is no ordinary monster. It is a hybrid terror, part vampire, part ghoul, part witch, stitched together from centuries of dread in Visayan folklore. Unlike other creatures bound to a single form, the Aswang's true power lies in transformation. It can mimic animals, vanish into the night, or split its own body apart, leaving its lower half behind while its upper half takes flight, trailing entrails like ribbons in the wind. Among its most infamous incarnations is the Manangalang, a female figure who detaches from her torso and hovers in the sky, searching for victims. Another is the Tik-Tik, whose eerie bird-like call echoes through the night. Villagers believed the closer the sound, the farther the demon, and the fainter the call, the nearer it lurked outside your window. A cruel trick of sound, designed to lure terror. But the Aswang does not limit itself to women or children alone. In the stories whispered from hut to hut, no human is safe. It can drink the blood of men, devour the organs of elders, or snatch away infants from their cradles. Its gift is stealth, blending seamlessly into human society, walking unseen until hunger overwhelms its mask. Communities, terrified yet resilient, developed defenses. Garlic, salt, vinegar, and blessed oil became household talismans. Sharp bamboo stakes were hidden near doorways, while priests carried holy water to drive the demon back. Some tales speak of finding the hidden half of a Manangalang's body and sprinkling it with salt or ash, ensuring it can never return to wholeness. And still, the fear endures. Even in the modern age, stories surface of sudden deaths in remote villages blamed not on sickness, but on an Aswang attack. Filipino cinema, literature, and folklore festivals continue to breathe life into this creature, ensuring it is never forgotten. To this day, the Aswang remains the beating heart of Filipino horror, a nightmare in human skin, reminding us that sometimes the monster is not hiding in the shadows, but walking beside us in daylight.
On a lonely mountain road, a beautiful woman waves you closer, but 8 legs wait in the shadows. If the Aswang is horror hidden in plain sight, the Jorōgumo is terror spun like silk, beautiful, delicate, and deadly. In the mountain passes and misty forests of Japan's Edo period, travelers whispered of a mysterious woman appearing where no one should be. She stood at the edge of a path or by a rushing stream, kimono flowing, eyes shimmering with impossible warmth. She beckoned with a smile. Those who followed rarely returned. Legends tell that the Jorōgumo is no woman at all, but a giant spider yokai who has lived for centuries, long enough to take human shape. Her true body is enormous, hidden in the dark recesses of caves or behind cascading waterfalls. Threads of invisible silk snake from her fingers, ready to bind, to drain, to devour. One of the most famous sites tied to this story is Joren Falls in Shizuoka Prefecture. Locals still recount how men vanished there, seduced by an unseen beauty, their bodies never found. At night, the roar of the waterfall seems to mix with whispers, or perhaps the rustling of spider legs across wet stone. Unlike many monsters with specific prey, the Jorōgumo's hunger is indiscriminate. She does not stalk only men, women, or children, but any soul unfortunate enough to cross her path. Merchant or monk, farmer or samurai, her silken web recognizes no rank or gender. Yet she is more than a tale of predation. In Japanese folklore, the Jorōgumo embodies the tension between desire and danger. Her beauty is a lure, her web a metaphor for entrapment. To be drawn in by her is to fall victim not just to a predator, but to one's own temptation. She is a living warning woven into story, that not every smile is kindness, not every invitation safe. Over centuries, she has crept beyond the forest into Japan's cultural imagination. Kabuki plays cast her as a dancing specter, spinning brilliant webs on stage. Woodblock prints show her mid-transformation, kimono peeling away to reveal glistening arachnid legs. Today, she scuttles through anime, manga, and urban legends, sometimes as villain, sometimes as tragic anti-hero, always as a reminder of the thin line between beauty and terror. Where the Aswang hides in daylight, the Jorōgumo waits in twilight, weaving threads of myth that still cling to Japan's haunted places. And in the hush of a mountain path or the echo of a waterfall, some say she still lingers, a shape at the edge of vision, beckoning you closer.
The grave is not always the end. Sometimes it is only the doorway. If the Jorōgumo's web belongs to the forest, the Strigoi belongs to the graveyard. In the rolling hills and mist-draped valleys of Romania, people once believed that death could not always hold the wicked or the restless. A body laid to rest might rise again, not as a ghost, but as something far hungrier, a Strigoi, a shadow of its former self that crept back to the living to feed. The Strigoi sits at the dark root of Europe's vampire myths. These are not elegant counts in candlelit castles, but restless spirits scratching at windows, slipping through cracks, draining the vitality of neighbors and kin. The villagers whispered of dead relatives knocking at doors, of livestock suddenly wasting away, of sick children pale as moonlight. In their minds, it was not sickness or bad luck, but the invisible touch of a Strigoi, a soul that refused to stay buried. And the Strigoi came in two forms. There were the living Strigoi, witches, warlocks, or cursed individuals marked from birth with strange signs, a tail-like appendage, a coal, two hearts. People feared that, even alive, such beings walked between worlds, draining luck and health. And then there were the dead Strigoi, true revenants, corpses that clawed out of the grave to roam at night. Both were believed equally dangerous, but the dead Strigoi inspired the most terror. To fight them, villagers turned to grim, desperate measures. They would exhume suspected graves, looking for signs of movement or blood at the mouth. Stakes of hawthorn or ash were driven through the heart. If that failed, the body might be decapitated, dismembered, or burned, its ashes scattered at crossroads to break the curse. Sometimes they fed the corpse with wine or bread, hoping to appease it, or rang church bells at night to ward it off. The rituals were brutal, but to the villagers, they were survival. These tales crossed borders and centuries, feeding into the folklore of Nosferatu and eventually shaping the most famous vampire story of all, Dracula. When Bram Stoker wrote of his immortal count rising from Transylvanian soil, he wove together the very whispers of the Strigoi. Even today, scholars trace the beating heart of Dracula back to these peasant legends, a terror born not in castles, but in humble villages, where every nightfall might bring the dead knocking at your door. And so the Strigoi stands as the night's cold reminder. Death may not be the end. Sometimes it's only the beginning.
In the flicker of funeral pyres they whirl, part goddess, part demon, drinkers of life force itself. From the damp cemeteries of Romania, our path moves east, over deserts and mountains, to where the Himalayas rise like the spine of the world. Here the night demon takes another form, the Dakini, beings at once terrifying and holy, dancing at the edge of heaven and hell. Their name means sky-goer or sky dancer, and for centuries they have been whispered of in the secret languages of Tantra. In the oldest texts of Tantric Buddhism and Hindu Tantra, Dakinis are not simply evil, they are paradox itself. Enlightened wisdom beings on one hand, ferocious yoginis haunting cremation grounds on the other. Some appear radiant and winged, flashing skull-topped crowns and streaming scarves as they streak through the sky. Others manifest as blue-black women, with hair like fire, brandishing knives and drinking from skull cups. In both guises, they are threshold figures, tearing away illusion and consuming ignorance, yet also devourers of the living if approached without reverence. Stories tell of them swirling over cremation grounds, where flames crackle and the veil between worlds thins. There they dance on corpses and feast on the essence of those who stray too near. In their flesh-eater aspect, Dakinis represent the raw, terrifying power of transformation. They devour the ego, but to the uninitiated, it feels like being devoured body and soul. For wandering ascetics and tantrics, these charnel fields were places of testing. If you could withstand the vision of the Dakini, you might gain hidden wisdom. If not, you might lose your sanity or your life. They were also central to secret rites. In esoteric rituals, the Dakini is invoked not as a monster, but as a fierce teacher, a guardian of mantras and hidden knowledge. Her skull cup brims not only with blood, but with the nectar of liberation. Her knife severs not just flesh, but attachment. Yet the symbolism is dangerous. Outside the ritual space, the same image becomes one of horror, of witches who steal life force, of demons who fly by night. In the modern world, the Dakini still fascinates. Some see her as an archetype of feminine power, a goddess who strips away falsehood. Others in occult circles dwell on her darker legend, painting her as a vampire-like being who preys on human energy. In both cases, she remains a figure of the liminal, neither wholly good nor wholly evil, a reminder that what we fear can also transform us.
From the Strigoi rising from its grave to the Dakini dancing over funeral pyres, the pattern repeats. Night demons who cross boundaries of life and death, of heaven and earth, of wisdom and terror. And still our path through darkness is not done.
When you wake, unable to move, breath crushed from your chest, you may blame sleep paralysis, but once they blamed the Mara. From the burning ghats of India and Tibet, our trail bends northwest through steppes and dark pine forests until we reach the long winter nights of Europe's far north. Here, the demon takes on a colder, subtler form. No wings, no skull cups, only a shadow at the edge of your bed. In the languages of the Vikings and the Slavs, she was called Mara, the mare of nightmare. In Old Norse and Slavic tales, the Mara was not a dream, but a being, a thin, dark presence that slipped through keyholes and cracks, perched on the chests of sleepers and pressed the breath from their lungs. The victim awoke, eyes wide, heart racing, body unable to move, a weight pinning them down. What we call sleep paralysis today was, for them, the visitation of a night demon. Sometimes it left claw marks. Sometimes it left nothing at all but exhaustion, as if life force itself had been siphoned away. Folklore across Scandinavia, Poland, and the Balkans speaks of the Mara as shapeless shadow or gaunt woman, yet always a trespasser of boundaries, slipping between walls, between worlds, feeding on fear and breath. In some regions, she could even ride horses by night, tangling their manes as she drew power from them. The word Mara traveled with the myth, shaping the very term nightmare in English centuries later. Communities developed their own protections. In Sweden, iron knives were placed under pillows. In Bohemia, knots were tied in hair and sheets to trap the Mara. Prayers and charms were whispered before bed. Doors were barred, windows latched, yet still she was said to seep through like mist. She could not be killed, only turned away, a shadow feared as much as any flesh and blood monster. And yet her influence outlived the old villages. The image of a dark figure pressing on a sleeper's chest appears in paintings of the Romantic era, in Gothic literature, and even in modern horror films. From the Norse Mara to the Germanic Mar to the English nightmare, she seeded a lineage of sleep demons that crossed oceans and centuries, whispering into the subconscious of Europe and later America. From the Dakini who devours in firelight to the Mara who suffocates in darkness, our journey through the night's predators has circled the globe. Yet even now, beyond the ring of firelight, countless other shapes stir, waiting for a story to name them.
Across continents and centuries, the shapes may differ. Bat-winged Aswang, silk-threaded Jorōgumo, restless Strigoi, fire-dancing Dakini, breath-stealing Mara. Yet their patterns echo one another. All are creatures of the night, moving in secret, crossing the boundary between life and death, human and inhuman. They shapeshift to deceive, feed on vitality rather than simple flesh, and strike when we are most vulnerable, asleep, alone, or unaware. Every culture forged its own defenses, garlic and salt, iron knives and whispered knots, charms, mantras, and holy oil. Though the languages changed, the impulse was the same, to draw a line of light against whatever waits in the dark. These legends are not just local curiosities. They are mirrors of the same primal fears: darkness, helplessness, the unseen hunter at the edge of the fire. They have left fingerprints on Gothic novels, horror films, anime, and urban legends, shaping how we picture evil itself. 5 names, 5 shadows. From the humid jungles of the Philippines to the frozen forests of the north, night demons have haunted our collective imagination for centuries. They are warnings, archetypes, and perhaps, some say, still watching us from the dark. We have only skimmed the surface of a vast, whispering ocean of myth. For every story told here, 100 more linger in forgotten villages, old manuscripts, and sleepless dreams. Which of these beings chills you the most? Do you believe they exist beyond superstition, or are they reflections of something deeper in the human soul? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Share your own legends, nightmares, and protective rituals. You might see them woven into a future episode. Because our exploration of the world's darkest myths is only beginning, and the night still holds many more secrets.